3, 2, 1. Good morning, all. This is Ned over at My Philippine Dreams, one half of the Philippine Dream Team, coming at you live, yes, live, on our weekly live cast this week in the Philippines. Here in Dumaguete City, Negros Oriental, the Philippines. We got a few things to talk about, but first up, it's New Year's. Oh, and if the air conditioner's too loud, if it's making a humming noise, somebody let me know. Because I had to close the windows, because not only is there the potential for the German Shepherd in the very small cage barking, which is only about 6 feet away from my office window, but the neighbor is also burning leaves and was coming into the house, so I closed the windows. So let me know if the aircon's making too much noise, and I'll just turn a fan on. Alright, so first up, New Year's. We got a lot of comments, a lot of people wishing Michelle and I a Happy New Year. It's much appreciated. There was a lot of comments, so I'm not going to be able to respond to every single one of them. So I just wanted to wish everybody out there watching this live cast or watching our channel, past, present, and future, a Happy New Year, a Prospero Año y Felicidad 2017. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, but I'm hoping that, human beings will ultimately come together in compassion and love, and everything will work out. Yeah, balancing that pessimism with optimism. Alright, so that's New Year's greetings to everybody. Hope you all had safe holidays. Things are good here. The low pressure area of the typhoon has moved out, so the internet's a little bit better. Actually, let's see if we're actually broadcasting. Okay, we're broadcasting. Alright. First up, second up, thank you for all the New Year's well wishes. Thanks to Henry and Randall for donating nearly $300 to the charitable project Kitty Fund. We did a spaghetti fest on Christmas Day, and they donated some money. And we're probably going to, if it's okay with Bud Brown, we're going to try to do something like that every month. We'll probably try to do a spaghetti fest. And because I know that Nano and Nikki and Junjun and all them enjoyed doing it, and it was kind of heartwarming. And it's a win-win for all involved. And so that's something we're going to do. Let me see if there's any comments about the quality of the noise. Okay, so it's not making too much noise. Alright, so again, the purpose of this live cast, this weekly stream here in glorious 360p half HD, is to pass on some information that's going on in the Philippines to people that are living here, considering living here, working here, studying here, coming to the Philippines. Populism and nationalism seems to be sweeping across the globe. Demagogues seem to be popping up. And we have one as a president right now here in the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte. And he's not a shrinking violet. I think that's the term. He's not afraid to speak his mind. And some of the things that he says are pretty alarming. He's actually got a guy, I think it's like a vice president or somebody on his council, that usually comes in afterwards and tries to clean up some of the mess, shall we say. But the latest things that have been coming from the Capitol, actually I think he stays in Davao most of the time, because he doesn't like the Capitol building in Manila because it's really big, it's like a maze, and he mentioned something about ghosts. But the latest coming out of Manila, there's two things going on. He was talking about martial law this past week, and President Duterte has always promised that he won't declare martial law in the Philippines because he realizes how destabilizing it would be and how harsh it would be on the economy here. But he's talking to Congress and the Supreme Court, or he mentioned something about this, because ever since Ferdinand Marcos's time, when Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law, the Philippines government has instituted a number of checks and balances to make sure that it just doesn't happen again at the whim of some president. So in order to declare martial law, there has to be approval from the Congress and also from the Supreme Court. And right now, President Duterte noted that there's a problem, because if he wants to declare martial law, if there's an invasion, and the only two reasons he says he'd declare martial law, if there's severe civil unrest or if there's an invasion. But right now, if there's an invasion, if the Chinese invade, and he wants to declare martial law, he has to get the Supreme Court and the Congress to okay it, and there's a potential for it to be a stalemate, for it to be a checkmate, for one or the other to say, no, don't declare martial law. So some people have expressed their concerns over that. And rightfully so, because that is concerning when martial law happens, you know, around the world in developing countries. It can be ugly for everybody living there and having to experience that. So that's a concern. The other concern we have from President Duterte was a comment he made last week, I believe. He was talking about corrupt politicians. Corruption is endemic to the Philippines, from the very top to the very bottom. It affects everybody here. It's part of the culture. And a lot of it has to do with the reciprocity, when you're giving favors, expecting favors in return, and that really pops out in politics. And President Duterte noted in a speech that he was giving that if there's any corrupt politicians, he will bring them for a helicopter ride. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. Now, the concern is that he's referencing throwing people out of helicopters, and that he did it before. I don't know the truth of that. I don't know the veracity of that. I do know that when that guy was giving testimony during the Senate investigations, he was supposedly, allegedly, he claimed to be a member of the Davao Death Squad, the DDS, and he said that the president had been involved in stuff like that. But corruption is a real problem here. Corruption is a huge problem around the developing nations, even in the first world. I mean, the United States has its own corruption problem. It's called lobbyists. So, again, and people are concerned. They're saying, should I go there? Should I stay? Should I be making contingency plans? Of course you should have contingency plans. You should always have plan B, C, and D. The good thing is it's easy to get to other countries: Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Ecuador, you know, Colombia, wherever. So I'm not going to be too concerned about it until something actually happens. People talking and people acting, those are two separate things. So we'll see what happens. Like what some people were expressing concerns about President-elect Trump, you know, becoming president. You know, saying he's a demagogue, he's a populist, he's a nationalist and stuff. But we got to wait and see what happens. You never know what's going to happen. I try to be optimistic. All right, let's go to the comments real quick. All right. Dun, dun. A lot of people wishing Happy New Year. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lam, noting that the noise is good. Quality is fine. Edward asks, Ned, how is Michelle's new job? She hasn't started yet, but she's very excited about it. We had to both sign some paperwork, some non-compete paperwork, and I had no problem doing that. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. All right, so let's get into some other things. Eating healthy in the Philippines isn't that difficult. What you have to do is you have to find the proper markets to get the proper fresh produce and semi-fresh meats and fish. Here in Dumaguete, we're lucky enough to have the Daro Produce Market. The Daro Produce Market is run by the DENR. I think it's Department of Environmental and Natural Resources, which is kind of like the EPA in the U.S. And at the Daro Produce Market, it's got to all be locally sourced, and it's got to be organic. They actually go and they check on the farms to make sure they're not using pesticides and all that. And every week I go down there and I inevitably run into some subscribers who I haven't met before. It happened yesterday. Hi, Jackie and Dan. And they have really fresh produce down there. So what I do is every Tuesday I go down and I get the fixings for salad. And I make up a huge salad. I actually make up 2 of these. You can see onions on the top. There's cucumber. There's carrot, and it's got a lot of lettuce on the bottom. This isn't iceberg lettuce. This is actually curly lettuce that is grown hydroponically. There's actually a number of foreigners that are growing hydroponically here around the Dumaguete area, usually up in the Valencia region. And it's kind of expensive. The lettuce is 280 pesos per kilo, but I only buy a half kilo, but that's a giant bag. A half kilo of lettuce is a lot of lettuce. So I get that, I chop everything up, I rip everything up, I rinse it real well, and I usually get 4 meals out of it. What I also do is I get some chicken, and I cook up the chicken, and I throw it on top. I marinate the chicken, and soy sauce, and garlic, and get it, you know, oh, so good. And it's healthy. And I also use my own homemade salad dressing. Olive oil, vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, vinegar, usually it's like a white wine vinegar, garlic, seasonings, and all that stuff. It's fantastic. It's healthy. So eating healthy in the Philippines isn't that difficult. I've heard some people worried or complaining about how impossible it is to eat here. It doesn't cost that much. This is 4 giant salads. This is 4 big meals. So 4 days at least out of the week I'm eating healthy. It's those other 3 days that are packing on the weight. Also, somebody asked about supplements. If you're coming to the Philippines, I recommend bringing your own supplements. CVS, Walgreens are usually having sales on multivitamins and fish oil. So bring enough of those for a year. You know, if you're only going to be here for a year, 6 months, whatever it may be. Because you can get them in the Philippines, but I wouldn't trust them in the Philippines because there's a lot of counterfeits going around. These aren't that expensive in CVS and Walgreens when they're having their 2-for-1 specials. So I supplement my nutritional needs with that. So eating healthy and supplements. Those are 2 questions that got asked. All right, now we're going to get into a couple comments that people left on the channel. Let me check our comment section here. Ed asked, did you get a new motorcycle? No, we still got the Honda Click and Michelle's old crappy Russie, which tends to break down every week. The Honda Click is amazing. KI4GLX says, USA is the worst in corruption. If you are visiting a third world and don't have traveler's insurance, you are pretty stupid. Sorry. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, making sure you got health insurance or traveler's insurance. Good point. Steve Cadman again asks about, Ned, any news about changes to the visa process? Australia is the same as the US, that we don't need a visa for the first 28 days. Has this changed? No, it hasn't changed. You spend your first month here basically free, and then you have to go through the reapplication process to renew it. Here in Dumaguete, they recently streamlined it. I'm not sure about Cebu, Manila, and all that, but they cut down on the paperwork and having to have photocopies of the last, visas and photographs of yourself. Stephen Johnson, I plan on moving there in 1 year. Do you feel it will be safe there to retire? My honest answer, I don't know. I don't know where you're planning on staying. There's some areas of the Philippines that are a little more edgy than others. If you're going to be in an area where there's not many foreigners, if you're way out in the provinces, you're going to kind of stick out, and that can be a problem. But you have to, it's basically like a lot of things in life, it's waiting and seeing. I hope that answered your question, even though it really didn't. I don't know. Brooksy TJ, appreciate all the information you put out, but I really tune in hoping to see what Michelle is up to. She's sleeping. She gets up, she stays up late and goes to... CF says, I always bring my vitamins, BCAAs, and even some extra protein. Actually, the protein here over at Lazada.com, I think it's called Pro Matrix, is cheap, and it's really good. It got really high reviews on bodybuilding.com. Now, is it real? I don't know. VLAM notes, or you don't like eating fish. Okay, actually Vay asks, I wonder why you would need fish oil when fish is a majority of their diet. I could be wrong. Or you don't like eating fish. No, I like fish, but the problem is there's a lot of mercury fishing in the Philippines. Basically, there's poison, they use mercury, they use dynamite. And the smaller fish, that's where you get the fish oil from. The smaller fish, unless you're getting it from salmon, which they don't really have here, could be high in toxic levels of mercury, and that's something to be concerned about. And these, I always check the reviews on Amazon and all that stuff, and this place seems pretty good. KI4GLX, Ned, does Michelle speak Tagalog, Ilonggo, and Cebuano? Yep, she speaks all 3 and English. She speaks Tagalog, she speaks English, she speaks Ilonggo, and she speaks Bisaya. David Purcell, what is the general attitude of Filipinos towards Americans, expats specifically? Usually I've noticed we tend to get preferential treatment. I guess that's being expats and not immigrants, as in the US or other first world countries. People look down on people coming into the country. But here, and again, there's been a long-standing relationship with the West, with the United States in particular. They're always asking questions about where you're from. Then they usually talk about, well, first they'll ask where you're from, are you married, when are you going to have kids, and then they start telling you about their relatives that are working OFW in the United States or Filipino-American relatives of theirs in the US. Jim, Philippine expat, all in all, are you satisfied with your life in the Philippines? Yes. It's definitely got its downsides, and we're going to be looking at a few of those in a little while here. But overall, Basically what it is it's a much lower cost of living in the Philippines. You don't have to deal with snow. What you got is the heat, you got the dust, you got the barking dogs, you got, and all the resources and infrastructure that you don't have access to in the Philippines that you do in the West. So it's a lower cost of living, but it's a lower quality of life. There's really no way of getting around that. You're not going to have, first tier medical care all the time, emergency responders, access to shopping, Amazon, eBay, just the basic stuff. Emission controls, traffic laws being enforced. There's a lot of drunk driving here. There's a lot of accidents. But overall, and I really enjoy living here. And it's been challenging at times. It's definitely been challenging at times. And it's taught me a lot about myself and about a lot of my shortcomings and a lot of my failings. A lot of things that I need to work on. A lot of things that I thought I had all figured out, I don't have figured out. So it's challenged me on a variety of levels. And it's also given me, if you've lived abroad for a while, and actually it's been over 3 years now I've been in the Philippines, it just broadens your horizons and gives you a different perspective. You look at things differently. A lot of things that you took for granted before, you look at differently. Hope that answers your question. Jeffrey the Pinoy Troll Swift. Americans are still respected in the Philippines. Hi, Jeffrey. Is that a new photo of you? Yeah. Yes, they are. And it's a really interesting relationship, and it's a fascinating relationship. It didn't start off as a good relationship. It was a horrific relationship. When the Americans first came into the Philippines, it was a horror show. And I won't get into all the statistics and everything and the numbers of people that died, but it wasn't good. Then when it turned from a military occupation to a civil occupation, and all the volunteers and teachers and engineers and all that came over here, that was a really special time. And if you really want to read about it, and I've mentioned this before, there's that book, The Great White Tribe in Philippinia, which you can get on Gutenberg.com or Gutenberg.org for free on Mobi, EPUB, and all that. And it is by far one of the best books I have ever read. I've read it like 6 times. He was not a missionary, but he was a teacher who came from, he was originally from the UK, came to the US, and then he went to the Philippines, and he was down in Mindanao, and this is like 1903, 1904, 1905. There was no air conditioning, and guess what? The Muslims were still doing their thing down in Mindanao. Jeffrey the Pinoy Troll Swift adds, unless you are an American scumbag. Yeah, if you're scumbag from any nation, they'll tolerate you for a little while, but eventually you're going to get your comeuppance. They don't fight fair. Somebody said, I can KL4GLX, I can do English and Tagalog, but Ilonggo is a dying language. Wish I could find a teacher for it. Yeah, I'm not. I can't even speak like basic Cebuano or Bisaya. I can like talk like a 2-year-old basically. 3-year-old maybe. I've been trying to learn. And some people say, why bother learning Bisaya? Why bother learning Tagalog? It's only used in the Philippines. But if you're planning on living here long term, and if you really want to be a part of the culture, Bud Brown is fluent in Tagalog, and he's really good in Bisaya, Cebuano. And his experience here is a lot different than my experience. He can interact with people on a different level than I can, and other people that can't speak, fluent Bisaya. Somebody asks, is Cavite safe? Is there a lot of Americans there? I don't know. Somebody asks, BDA Fuzzy, hi Ned, how do you prepare for an emergency visit to visit hospitals, such as a vehicle accident that would require immediate care, but are alone without cash in pocket? All right, this is an interesting thing that happens in the Philippines. A lot of times there's not ambulances, there's not they have a 911 system, but it's hard to access it, it's hard to communicate with the people operating it unless you speak Tagalog or Cebuano or Bisaya. But what happens here, if there's like a bad accident or something, people usually pull over. They'll usually take photographs, and what they'll do is they'll load you up on some form of conveyance, whether it be a tricycle, a multi-cab, or something, and they'll bring you to the local hospital. I've never seen an instance of there being an accident and people not stopping to help. Even if your car, and you'll see this a lot in the Philippines too, and this has nothing to do with medical care, but if someone's car stops running, you see this happen a lot here because, you know, maintenance and all that stuff, and they're older vehicles. People walking by will go over to help the person push start it, you know, if it's a standard, or help them push it off the road. So, you know, that Filipino hospitality, that caring about your common man, you see that when that happens. I've seen that happen. There was just a horrible scooter accident the other day, and if you go to Hulagawai, Dumaguete, they have a Facebook page which is like the unofficial news channel of Dumaguete. And here they'll put up the photos. They'll show the broken bodies, the brains in the street. They'll show, you know, the uncle holding up his niece who's dead, who's not coming back. And that was that. And I'm not an overly religious person, but seeing those photos and realizing that this uncle was going to have to live with the guilt of, you know, basically being responsible for the death of his niece, because it does look like it was his fault. I actually swung by the accident site yesterday and said a little prayer, you know, because that's horrible, especially in the holidays, or you know, especially with family. Ugh. So that's what people do if there's an emergency. I mean, if I drop of a heart attack right now, chances are I'm going to die. You know, they don't have ambulances flying around, or, you know, police cars flying around with, you know, automated external defibrillators and stuff. They just don't have that here. Jim Alexander says, by the way, you do good books. Thank you, Jim. And by the way, we have an over 400-page book on living, studying, retiring to the Philippines. It's available on our website over at myphilippines.com. It's $10.95, and it's got a 100% money-back guarantee. And I've never had to fulfill that money-back guarantee. Now I'm sure one of my trolls is going to go over buy it and say, I want my money back, so I can never say that again. Truckin71 said, not many Americans there that I saw. He's probably referring to Cavite. Jeffrey the Pinoy Troll Swift, Cavite is very fair when it comes to foreigners. If you don't know Jeffrey the Pinoy Troll Swift, he's an interesting character. He's living in Montana. He's OFW, or I don't know, are you Filipino? Yeah, you're Filipino American. He's Phil-Am. And he has a unique perspective on dealing with some issues within the Philippines. And, you know, having been grown up here, I think he moved over here when he was 18, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. You know, living 18 years here than going to America, he's got a really unique perspective. And he has a lot more insight than a lot of us expat vloggers who try to front and pretend that we know what we're actually talking about. Right, Jeff? All right. Davao Don says, great movie called Cavite, low budgeted but very good. Yeah, I've actually heard about that. Cedric Edwards says, was surprised at the number of foreigners in Cebu. Are there a lot of foreigners in Dumaguete? Dumaguete is infested. And Cebu is mostly, I'd say there's a lot more Korean and Chinese students in Cebu. And again, don't forget that Asians, the Asian populations, Japan, China, South Korea, they are the majority of the foreigners living in the Philippines. A lot of them are going to school. But yeah, actually that couple that came up to me yesterday, she was in the U.S. for 30 years, and they decided to retire here. She said that she was shocked, and they were shocked over the number of foreigners that are in Dumaguete. Because Dumaguete, I mean, the Philippines, this is how I describe it. The Philippines is Asia light. It's not as hardcore and difficult to, you know, become a part of as Thailand, as Cambodia, as China, for a variety of reasons. And and Dumaguete is even Philippines light, because it's just so easy to transition here if you're a first-time traveler or whatever. It's got a lot of amenities. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. There's a lot of foreigners to talk to. You get a college-educated population. And it's the city of gentle people, and I gotta say, man, they're pretty freaking nice people. The only problems we've had with Pinoys has been, you know, our neighbors with barking dogs and burning stuff, but that's part of their culture, man. Somebody said never order a taco in Cebu. Oh yeah, another question that I got. Ned, what about the street food? Is that street food, is the tocino, is the isaw, the chicken intestines, the tambok sa baboy, the pig fat and all that, is it safe to eat? Yeah, it is, but here's the caveat. We go to one place and one place only because they stoke their fires. The thing's got to be like 1200 degrees Celsius. It's like a small sun. So when they put the meat that you pick out that's been sitting out there with the flies running around and the bacteria giving each other high fives, they burn the hell out of it. And I always ask them to get it extra crispy because if isaw isn't cooked well, the chicken intestine, it's rubbery and stuff, and I don't like that. I like really crispy. And even though when you're burning it like that, you're getting a lot of carcinogens, I'd rather have, you know, some carcinogens than, you know, bacteria. Philly and some Joe says, hi Ned, first time catching you live. We're thinking of Coron and May. Ever been there? No, but I've heard that the electricity is not dependable at all, and that every establishment basically has its own generator. That's one concern you got to have when you're trying to figure out where you want to live or where you're deciding to visit. But it's stunningly beautiful. It's a gorgeous place. Whenever you see photos of the Philippines, it's from that area. You know, they're not showing pictures of Dumaguete or pictures of Cebu. They're showing pictures, you know, of that area. But there's some areas like Palawan that have hard time with their electricity infrastructure. The electricity there is also very expensive compared to like Dumaguete, for example, because we have our geothermal plant, which provides us with fairly inexpensive electricity as compared to some other places in the Philippines. So no, I've never been there. The thing is I mean, I'm working, Michelle's working. It's not like we got time to be running around, but we are going to Bohol within a week, I believe, for a couple days, and check that out before Michelle starts her new job. Dun, dun. All right, so let's go to a comment that was left on the channel real quick. DJ Smooth, New York. This was, I forgot where he left this, but he said foreigners can own 40% of the land if they are married. But the bottom line is too many jump into these fantasy relationships with a young woman and the rest is just a waste of time and money. My girlfriend has 16 years on her job and never asked for anything. We're still going strong and making plans together. She does own a house and her parents own the land. So I already know that I don't have any say-so. So it's probably best to invest in a condo, LOL. A little common sense goes a long way. Well said, DJ Smooth. I don't know if you're tuning in. I don't know if you're here. But don't get it twisted. We cannot own land in the Philippines. Foreigners cannot own land in the Philippines. You can own a portion of the structure that you provide all the money for to build on that land, but you won't be able to recoup that until the persons who name it is, usually a Filipino or a Filipina, until they actually sell the property with that structure. We can own condos in the Philippines, but if you've ever seen a Philippines condo, you're not going to be amazed by them. They're very small. You got the condo fees on top of that. And if you actually want to see an interesting forum thread, go over to the Living in Cebu forums, and there's actually somebody over there who doesn't live that far from me, but they got a condo built by Robinsons in Cebu, and he's sharing his experiences and, you know, the quality of the craftsmanship, all the things that are wrong. So buying a condo here, think twice. Yes, you can own it, but they're hard to get rid of. They're very small, they're very tiny, and sometimes there's some problems on top of that. Also, Jeff Angelo says, hi Ned and Michelle, I watch your vlogs all the time. This is Jeff Angelo. I watch your vlogs all the time and enjoy your sense of humor. I've been to the Philippines many times, including Dumaguete. I recently watched a blog from an American living in the Philippines. His name's Dieter. Can you tell me why he would have a downer on you? You seem like such a decent, honest guy, great personality, and a happy, loving relationship. I have never seen you attack others and in fact you go out of your way not to offend anyone. Please keep up the vlogs. Regards, Jeff in the UK. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. This has been going on for a while. He actually built his channel on using thumbs of me and Michelle, taking thumbs from our videos and stuff. He's had some pretty disparaging things to say about me. But you got to understand, different people are coming from different places. You got to meet people where they're at. YouTube doesn't do a whole lot to really police what's going on. I'm not one of those guys who reports videos for being offensive and stuff. Some of the commenters say even worse stuff, and that's the stuff that I get pissed off about. I mean, it's one thing for Dieter to say stuff about me. I really don't care. It's all good. But when his commenters and stuff, Mel Tom MC, I'm talking to you, leave disparaging comments about Michelle, that's when I take an exception to it. But I've invited this gentleman on numerous occasions to meet with me so we could sit down and discuss this, but he seems, not able to do that. So, yeah, I mean, when you get, when you get a big channel, when you get, popular or whatever, there's always going to be people trying to take you down. What is it, that crab mentality? Yeah, that crab mentality, trying to drag other people down. I do the best that I can. I try to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in the Philippines. And I try to be as objective as possible. And I've said on numerous occasions, the Philippines is not for everybody. The average person, the average normal person who comes here isn't probably going to be able to take it long term for a variety of reasons. So you got to be a little outside of the norm to really appreciate this and to be able to deal with some of the things that you don't have to deal with in the first world. I'm not saying it's a special person. Maybe they were special ed. Yeah, I rode the short bus. What about it? But it's not for everybody. So you got to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the bizarre. All right, back to the comments. This is getting a little long, but I've had a lot of coffee, so why not keep it going? Oh, Scott Walt, you're so mean. That's so inappropriate. Fox Moon says, can you own a townhouse? If it's a condo. If it's a condo. You can only own condos. You can't own the land. You can own the condo. Joe Stone says, a hot plate and a faucet is called a kitchen in Cebu, in a Cebu condo. Yeah, that's about it. And a shower, no bath. It's tough, man. But it's the only way for a foreigner to actually own something here. And, people get all upset. They're like, how come there's no reciprocity? Filipinos can go over the United States and buy up all our land. Well, we got a lot of land. If you ever flown over the Midwest, the flyover states, there's just so much land. And if the Philippines sold land to foreigners, there would be so many Koreans, there would be so many Chinese, there would be so many Japanese here. They'd basically have their country bought out from underneath them. Bobby K, have you ever been to a barber in the Philippines? No. I use my three-headed Noriko razor, and I have a routine because I'm kind of OCD. When I'm shaving my head, it only takes about 15-20 minutes. When I'm shaving my head, I watch UFC, and I'm watching UFC 207 right now. I told you about UFC 206 last week. Best fight ever. And I think that UFC 206 was actually the best fight card ever. So no, I've never been to a barber. I really don't have a whole lot to work with. And it gets a little easier to cut it every year. James Culver says, I miss the 3-in-1. Yeah, I got some right here, James. Love the 3-in-1. Although it's a crap load of sugar. Mr. B61 says, any organizations that deal with spay and neuter in Dumaguete? There are too many unfixed here. Yeah, I don't think there's any real animal control officer or department. So basically you just got, semi-feral dogs and cats all over the place. There is a place in the public market up on the second floor where you can get the dog neutered or spayed. And once a year, I think it's in, I forgot when it is, they do a free month so people can bring their dogs in and get them neutered. Yeah, dogs have a tough life in the Philippines, man. It's a dog's life in the Philippines. It's rough. Jeffrey Pinoy trolls Swift. San Pedro is lost. Yeah, and he's really sick too, and even though, he thinks I hate him and everything, I don't. hate's a very strong word. The only thing I hate is raw tomatoes. And I actually hope it works out for him and they find out what's wrong. Because he looks freaking horrible. And if you notice, his voice is getting like weaker. Jim Alexander, but I look good. Oh, thank you, Jim Alexander. But I'm already taken. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Cagayan Valley, Isabella and beyond. Ned, love your videos, man. Yeah, I checked out some of your videos. You're doing a good job over there too. And again, it's good to have more people doing video channels, giving their perspective on, you know, traveling abroad, their experiences here, because people look at things differently. You know, one person will look at, you know, one thing one way, the next person will look at it the other way, and it's good to get that plurality. It's good to get that diversity. You know, because I mean, I watch some other channels too, and sometimes something will come up, and I'm like, wow, I never thought of that. Oh, and I got a new saying for the Philippines, and I might have mentioned this last week, but it goes something like this. Philippines, the land of, when it comes to foreigners, the Philippines, the land of the wanted and the unwanted. I thought that was pretty good. Mr. Babylon says, Ned, I've missed a few episodes, but we don't see a lot of Michelle's family. Are you close to them? I'm not personally close to them. They've come by a few times. I've gone down and met them. They live very far away on the other side of Mindanao. And it's an area that I can't go now because it's basically Abu Sayyaf and all that. Michael Sistrunk, what internet company do you use there? We had terrible internet there in Oriental Mindoro when staying with some of my wife's family. Hold on. We use PLDT here in Dumaguete. It's very good. We had some problems last week, like I mentioned in the live cast, but that was due to the storm coming through, that horrible typhoon that, you know, caused all that damage and killed all those people up in Manila. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here complaining about my internet speed, and it was sunny skies here. So we use PLDT. I'm very happy with it. When it comes to internet, the best thing to do, if you're considering moving into an apartment or some specific area, go talk to other people and say, what kind of internet do you have? Are you happy with it? Because PLDT can work great here, but 200 meters down the road, it could be total crap. Mario Padilla notes that a Hungarian restaurateur was killed in an upscale subdivision in Pavia, Iloilo on Sunday, January 1st, following a heated argument with a neighbor on the use of firecrackers on New Year's Eve. Thank you for that, Mario. And I'd like to know if is there anything online about that? Because I've been noticing that they haven't been reporting on a lot of crimes and, you know, murders for like the last 5-6 months. Okay, Billy Evans, I'm going to go out on this and I'm going to apologize. Billy Evans says, Billy, I sent you a message over 2 weeks ago asking for information, but you never responded. All right, I got to apologize for that. I'm not very good at responding to emails. I'm not very good at responding to Facebook messaging, all that stuff. I just got other things going on, and that's my excuse. You know, I can't really devote a whole lot of time. It's not, and we get so many messages, we get so many emails, we get so many comments, we get so many PMs on all our different channels that it's really hard to keep up. Travis Kraft, actually, some of you probably know this. Travis Kraft, he's had a long-standing rule that if you want to send him an email, he wants $20 to respond. And I think that's a little steep, maybe $5, $10. But it's gone to the point on our channel where, because we got so many people and we got so much, you know, communication going on, that I got to figure out something. But it's not like I'm just blowing people off. It's not like I'm ignoring it. I do try to keep up with the comments and everything. It's just a difficult task to do on this scale. I need to sub it out to somebody. And finally, we'll go to one more thing. Spicy David says, why Duterte need to get rid of street beggars in the street? Why he is not doing it? I'm not sure, but this brings up an interesting thing. Whenever dignitaries are coming over here, or there's some big event going on, whether it be a beauty pageant. This recently happened on the beauty pageant. What they do is they round up all the beggars. Like when the Pope came, they round up all the street kids. They arrest some of them and they put them, Department of Social Services. And it's a class. I mean, there's definitely classism here in the Philippines, man. The value on human life is different for those who are haves and those who are have-nots. It's a little different in other parts of the world, but here, man, So that's about it. Hope you enjoyed the live cast. Hope I was able to supply some information. Again, don't forget our book. Our book's pretty good. I spent a lot of time on it. I still got to do updates on it. And I'm actually working on that. And wish everybody well. Thank you for all your support this past year. Thank you for being positive and upbeat and showering us with love and compassion, because the world needs more of that, especially in these uncertain times when we got all these unknown factors and demagogues and populists and nationalists looming on the horizon. I can't wait for Bill Maher to come back. He's been on vacation for like 3 months. Ugh. All right, everybody, take care, be well, thanks again, and I'll see you next time. This is Ned over at My Philippine Dreams. I'm hitting the stop streaming button. Take care.